In this session we're going to learn about how fear actually affects labour. And also within this is really the relationship of that with pain as well. So, and the idea that actually we can have and experience birthing without pain if we can let go of the fear as part of that. There's a great story about there's a lady who is about 5 months pregnant. You know, she's doing everything she thinks she should be in terms of yoga. She feels in control of her life. She's feeling very healthy. But then she kind of panics and says, but I just really can't think about that day. And she's kind of blocking out the actual birth from her mind because there's a lot of fear attached to it. So really this is kind of an example how the sophisticated modern woman who's in control of her life just feels kind of helpless when it comes to childbirth. That's really common. But if we think about we can see here the kind of more traditional fertility images of women. These are something that we're not really exposed to in modern images that we see of the female body. And added to that, childbirth itself is quite kind of hidden away within a hospital environment. So it's quite hidden, we don't really see it, and we don't have this kind of positive image of the fertile body. So all of that kind of impacts on us, and we just sort of don't inherently have this positive thinking around childbirth, and it leads to a lot of fear, and that's very typical. So in a sense we need to rethink how we see childbirth. And part of that is kind of educating ourselves about the actual physical workings of it, as that's a good way in from where we are today. So if we look specifically at the muscles of the womb, this is basically composed of an outer layer. These are vertical muscles that wrap around. And then there's this sort of middle fleshy layer which includes a lot of the blood supply. And then the inner muscles, which you see as sort of circular, and they're actually more concentrated towards the bottom. So when we're in labour, what happens is that the vertical muscles are pulling in, and this helps to pull out the relaxed inner muscles, which then open up, and this is the opening phase, and the baby sort of nudges down through the birth path. In conjunction with this, we've also got our nervous system, and basically we're in two states. And that can either be the relaxed state, which is called the healing room, where basically we're relaxed, we're functioning normally, and all our sort of bodily organs are functioning normally. There's also kind of the sort of panic mode, which is freeze, flight, fear mode. And this is, a small percentage of our time is spent in this, when we think that there's imminent danger and the body kind of reacts in a certain way. This is both to do with the sort of chemical balances, but also in terms of where your blood is going and what organs your body is prioritising. Now, if we take this back to the womb itself, the womb is one of these organs which functions best in the relaxed state. We don't use the womb when we are in a kind of an emergency situation. So that emergency response shuts down basically the proper functioning of the womb. And we see this in nature with animals who, if they're feeling uncomfortable or startle, they will actually stop their labour, and then that recommences when they're feeling at ease. And in a sense, human beings are similar. But this is a really good pattern as well to think about what we're doing through our relaxation, and also through how we're visualizing what's going on, in particular with the inner lower muscles, where we should really, our whole focus should be on relaxation, because the surges of the outer muscles, that's a subconscious thing that will be going on through our labour. So as we're in labour, we'll experience those surges, which are those outer muscles which are doing their job to open up the inner muscles. So what we need to do is to be in the very, very relaxed state, so that those inner muscles are allowed to open up and are working in harmony with the outer muscles. So if we go into kind of the panic mode, or the fear mode, what's happening there is that the inner circular muscles are not releasing. The blood supply is constricting, so the blood is being redirected to other organs, and the blood is just not sufficient for the very active muscular activity that's going on with those outer muscles. So really it's about sort of being in that state where we can allow the womb to do its job best, and doing everything we can to avoid moving towards that kind of freeze and restrictive syndrome. So so that's basically kind of the theory where the relaxation techniques kind of build on. That's kind of why we're doing it. We're doing this to allow our body to function best. It's something that absolutely comes naturally to women, and we've kind of we do have that trust in ourselves if we just allow it to emerge. So a lot of the tips and techniques will be about those areas where basically you are training yourself to reconnect with that very kind of basic activity. So that's the theory, as it were, behind a lot of the techniques that we'll be talking about. It's a really important thing to come back to, so do perhaps come back to this video at different times, just to remind yourself of that working, and why we need to focus on the relaxed state through our labour. Okay, thank you.